Hello, my dear friends. How are you doing? Hope you are having an amazing day and not having to deal with drama. Ready for new stories I have for you today? Let's go to the first one. And don't forget to listen to the end of the story, guys, to hear my insights. Enjoy the stories, and don't forget to like and subscribe. And of course, don't forget to leave a comment. My ex destroyed my life 7 years ago. He was cheating on me with multiple women and allowed one of the women in question to steal from us, which set not only him, but me back, because it was a substantial amount she got her hands on, and to this day, the woman is unknown because she gave fake details. We divorced as a result, and one of his affair partners during the divorce admitted she was pregnant. From what I now know, the baby was conceived after I filed for divorce, but the mother was someone in his life while we were married. Ex and I share 2 children. Our son is 11, and our daughter is 10. He passed away suddenly about 8 months ago. He was the sole parent of his daughter, who is 6 currently. Her mother did not want to be in her life. Her mother's family were also not in her life. After my ex died, his daughter was taken into foster care. She has remained in foster care. I was contacted earlier in the process and asked if I would foster her and raise her with my children. I said no. That was the end. My ex's sister got in touch with me a month ago. First time in years we communicated. Even at ex's funeral, no words were exchanged. And we have bad blood. She expected me to stay with her brother, for our children, despite knowing he was sleeping around. I didn't like that. She felt like I ruined my ex's life by leaving. She told me as much. He gave me an STI that I didn't know I had until I went to get checked after finding out about his affairs. Ex's sister told me her niece deserved a parent, deserved a family, and I should keep her with her siblings, and she told me to cut the half BS. That she knows the reason my kids called her a half-sibling is because of me, and I can undo all the bad I did and make things work for all 3 kids to have a happy home. She repeated over and over again that she felt her niece deserved this and how she's on foster family 5 already and no family have come forward to take her. I ignored her and ended the call without saying anything. But she didn't give up and called me again a week ago from a new number. I blocked her old one and was repeating the same crap. I told her she can give her niece a parent if she wants, but it won't ever be me. I told her she should want better for her niece than someone who would never love her or want her. This caused a hysterical reaction, but she told me I'm a heartless bee who feels okay separating siblings. Am I the a-hole? It sucks that this little girl has no one, but she is not OP's responsibility. She has a mother, a maternal family, and a paternal family. That is a lot of people who could step up and care for their relative, but they haven't. It isn't OP's job to raise her. Also, why do people think the one who was cheated on should just have to deal with the affair fallout? Affair babies, STDs, etc. OP didn't deserve that, and while the girl doesn't deserve a crappy family because her mom decided to be absent, it's not OP's job as the victim to pick up the pieces that OP's ex left. And now let's hear the community's opinion. Why are you taking any of these calls from a person you admittedly have had no relationship with for years? Who these days even answers a voice call from an unknown number? Not the a-hole. You already made the decision about taking in your kid's half-sibling, and it was a no. Now, stop interacting with your ex-sister-in-law just for the opportunity to get your last digs in about your garbage ex-spouse and this garbage situation. Not the a-hole. The sad thing is that there are a lot of kids in this world that no one wants to parent. So why doesn't the sister-in-law ever adopt any children? She won't adopt her own niece, but expects you to step up for some child not even related to you. I know the child is a half-sibling to your children, but you aren't related by blood to the child. What happened to her niece is tragic, but just like she cannot take care of her, you can't either. Simple logic. Why is she expecting someone else to do something she doesn't herself want to do? And your ex must have badmouthed about you to his daughter, and I bet the sister-in-law. The drama queen has also done so. So it's not like you can start from square one. Block the sister-in-law and move on in your life. Not the a-hole. Your ex wrecked your life, wrecked his life, and wrecked his child's life. Foster care sucks, but this is not your problem to solve. The ex-sister-in-law needs to solve it, but is instead dumping it on you, which definitely makes her the a-hole. I have to wonder what is going on in that family. Your ex was a piece of work who imploded your lives. Now his sister is harassing you. Whatever happened there is their problem and not yours. You did not separate siblings. This is not your child. It is not your responsibility. I, 29 male, have been with my fiancée, Emily, 28 female, for 5 years. We got engaged a year ago, and our wedding was supposed to be a fairy tale. Everything seemed perfect until last week. I was preparing for the wedding when I noticed Emily acting strangely. She was secretive with her phone and had sudden, unexplained disappearances. I chalked it up to wedding stress until I received an anonymous message with photos and screenshots revealing that Emily was having an affair with not just one person, but two. My brother, Mark, 31 male, and her best friend, Sarah, 28 female. I was devastated. I confronted Mark, who admitted everything, and said it started as a mistake, but evolved into something more. Sarah, on the other hand, denied it at first, but then broke down and confessed, saying she and Emily had always been closer than I realized. I didn't know what to do. Calling off the wedding seemed drastic, but marrying someone who betrayed me with two of the people I trusted most felt impossible. I decided to go through with the wedding to gather my thoughts, but as I stood at the altar, watching Emily walk down the aisle, all I could think about was the betrayal. When she reached me, I couldn't go through with it. I took a deep breath and told everyone what I had discovered. Emily burst into tears. Mark looked horrified, and Sarah ran out. My parents were furious, and the guests were in shock. Now both families are divided. My parents are supporting me, but Emily's parents are calling me cruel for humiliating her publicly. Friends are split, with some saying I did the right thing, and others saying I should have handled it privately. Emily has been texting and calling non-stop, begging for forgiveness, saying she made a mistake and wants to fix things. Mark has disappeared, and Sarah is posting cryptic messages on social media about betrayal and forgiveness. I'm heartbroken and confused. Am I the a-hole for exposing Emily and leaving her at the altar, or should I have handled it differently? Not the a-hole. While some might argue that you could have handled it privately, the magnitude of the betrayal and the fact that it involved your brother and her best friend make it understandable why you felt the need to expose it publicly. It was a way to protect yourself and avoid being further manipulated or gaslighted. Dude, no. You are not the a-hole here. She cheated with your brother and her best friend. You dodged a massive bullet and saved yourself from years of pain. Not the a-hole. She cheated on you with two people, one being your own brother. People who cheat normally don't change or just randomly start cheating, unless they've been cheating for a while and now just gave up on hiding it. My parents have always been incredibly Christian. They believe the Bible is completely divinely inspired. The earth is only 6,000 years old. Dinosaurs are a trick of the devil to them, and they believe a lot of terrible and hypocritical things about people and groups of people that I'd rather not get into. One thing they've always pushed on me is child rearing. It was instilled in me from a young age that my purpose in life was to have children, and if I don't fulfill that purpose, I will be a failure. The only reason they let me go to college is because I hadn't found a suitable husband by the time I graduated high school. They believe women shouldn't be allowed to earn higher than an undergrad degree. I'm still unmarried, but dating, and I'm still childless. I've also known I was infertile since about 24, but I didn't dare tell my parents that. That is, until this week. I was doing my weekly phone call with them on Monday when they told me that enough is enough, and if I'm not married and housebound by the time I'm 30, I will have failed them. I have a good job for my age. I do a lot of community work that benefits underprivileged youth and the homeless. I'm also an experienced hiker. I've pointed this out to them before, but they don't care in the slightest. They call the things that are important to me inconsequential whims. Only this time, they went a step further, and my dad called my life utter nonsense, and that I haven't amounted to a thing because I'm still childless and unmarried. I broke down and told them that I guess I'll never amount to anything then, because I'm infertile. They paused, asked me to repeat myself. I told them I was infertile. After a bit of silence, my mom started crying, and my dad began yelling at me, calling me a dried-up W, a disgrace to womanhood, and that I'm going to hell because I'm a failure as a woman. They hung up. I tried calling them a few times after that, but they didn't pick up. My mom sent me a text saying they will no longer allow sinners into their life, and told me that if I ever try to come to their property again, the home I grew up in, they'll shoot me. They haven't talked to me since, and I'm heartbroken. I know they can be mean, but they are my parents. The guy I'm dating is being as supportive as possible, but I still feel so empty. My whole life I've wanted nothing more than their approval, but now I'll never get it. I don't know what else I could have done. I don't understand why I'm still not enough for them. The very worst part is, I kind of feel relieved. I don't know why I feel relieved, but I do, and that makes me feel even worse. I should want my parents' approval, right? I should want to make them happy, right? Yet I have never been able to do that, and I don't know why. Please help. Wanting to make your parents proud, happy, is normal. What isn't is degrading and disowning your child over something they can't control. Your parents should love you, infertile or not. You love your children unconditionally. You need to learn to be happy for yourself. You can't rely on them to make you feel happy. Everyone learns to walk their own path, and you need to find yours. Walking your own path doesn't mean your parents tell you to turn left or right. You make that choice, and you find your happiness. They are horrible people, and seeking approval or validation from them is impossible. You will be so much better off without them in your life. My father died when I was around 16. He had an A relationship with my mother, but he was still my dad. When he passed, we got a payout. With this money, my mom bought me my first car, my last present from my dad, with an agreement, loosely, to pay back what I could. Recently, I sold the car as I wanted something bigger and got another car. I sold the car for $3,000, paying my mother half of that, paid her regularly before this, and spent the rest on the car. I really don't think I owed her too much at this stage, especially for paying her $1.5K on top of what I already paid. I loved the car. It had personality and was just me all over. I was very pleased. I thought Dad would definitely approve of it, and it made me happy. It was an old rare car, and I knew there weren't a huge amount of them left, which was nice too. In a weird set of circumstances, I ended up facing prison time and huge fines for something that my mother was solely responsible for. I took the blame and got slapped with a 1,000-pound plus fine. I was out of a job at the time and looked for my mom for guidance, seeing as though I took the blame, but unfortunately received none. In the end, I had to go to court again if I didn't pay. I had no way of paying at the time, so I ended up going again to potentially once again face prison time. My mother didn't step in to own up, and I felt it wasn't right to dob her in, as it were. I managed to get extra time to pay it, which I am still to this day. A friend paid a couple months. If he hadn't, I would most probably be in prison. My mother knew this, but still refused to pay. Shortly after this, Mom said she was moving abroad. It was completely random, but she informed me that I must start saving for a house, as she would be gone in a few months, and the house was put on the market. When it sold, I was to be kicked out. I shoved away as much as I could muster each month, informing Mom I would pay 50% of all utilities, buy my own food, and a little bit of rent. She seemed content. Recently, a couple months after the house fiasco, after coming home, I noticed my car was missing. I was panicking pretty bad, worried it had been stolen. I called my mom and she told me she had sold it. Sold it? I asked. I was really confused, thinking it may have been some weird joke, but she was very blunt and matter-of-fact and told me, yeah, I paid for it, which wasn't entirely true. Dad had paid for it, as a last gift. We agreed paying her back was going to be slow, as she wanted me to save to move out. We had agreed this. Also, on top of this, I was in the process of paying her back. I paid for it through my account, had insured it with my money. By law, the car was mine. I was really upset, asking her why she would do that, and if she needed the money faster, she should have said. I would have gladly paid. I just wasn't aware. I was mad at this time. I was shouting, as was she, and we left on a bad note. I know to most this is only a car, but to me it was the last bit of my dad I had. I had to go to work the next day, so I left it there and stayed at a friend's house. The next morning, I came home to find the doors were all locked with keys in them to prevent me getting in. I managed to get in through the back of the house, where my mom asked what the hell I was doing there. Turns out, she had kicked me out and disowned me. At this point, I was pretty much homeless. I'm quite young with not enough savings to financially support myself. She seemed uncaring and made me pack my bags. At this point, I'm very upset, crying and confused. My mom just watched me pack. Later on, while still packing, a relation, mid-20s female, came around, screaming at me for treating my mother so poorly. It got so bad she was throwing my belongings out the window. She stopped me from calling anyone to come pick me up by snatching my phone out of my hand and scratching me quite badly across my hands. I'm at a friend's now. I've tried calling home 4 times, messaging countless times with absolutely no response. Through a turn of events, I found out my mom had gave my car to my ex-boyfriend. He was awful, and even she hated him at the time for the things he put me through. It took a lot to leave that relationship. I am feeling betrayed, upset, lost, and extremely angry. I've called the police and know where I stand on the law. I can report my car as stolen and get it back. But do I? Is there any coming back from this? And even if there were, I'm not sure I can forgive them for all they have put me through. It's been a few days and I don't feel like I'm capable of forgiving them a second time. I want my car that my dad got me. It makes me sick thinking that my ex has it. I really do feel like my mother has done this just to hurt me. The way she worded that she sold it makes me think it could have been given away to him. Would love some advice. You've got a criminal record from protecting that woman, and she sold your car and kicked you out? Report the car as stolen at the very least. I'd even go so far as to say it's time to grass her up for whatever happened before it doesn't get you in any more trouble. You have already gone to jail, prison for your mom. You've been illegally evicted. She illegally sold the car that was the last gift from your deceased father. She has now disowned you. Report the car stolen and go no contact. This relationship is clearly over. You have nothing to feel guilty about. Your mother is the one that has damaged this relationship beyond repair. I, 21 male, met my girlfriend, 19 female, in another country a year ago. I came back to this country a couple of months ago to visit her. My dad was coincidentally in the country too for a business trip. I planned a trip to another city with my girlfriend and her older sister. My dad came along in addition to his 2 nieces. In a local cafe, my 2 cousins, my girlfriend, her older sister, and my dad were having a chat, and my dad, with no filter, thinking no one would understand English, told me that my girlfriend's sister, 24 female, is hot and sexy. The way he said it gave me chills and left a bad taste in my mouth. I explicitly told my dad to not try anything because I know how he is. A 52-year-old using his money to attract 18 to 24-year-olds in other countries. He tells me he won't, but then he immediately turns his head to talk to my girlfriend's older sister. He was talking about his 6 figures and his leadership and professionalism. He's a very narcissistic guy, the type who does what he wants and never admits any guilt for it. Of all the places he could have intervened in, he chose my girlfriend's family. Only after 3 months did he decide to marry my girlfriend's 24-year-old sister after briefly meeting her with me. He told me he had S with her, bragging. After I told him since the beginning I would hate him for it because it would be difficult for me and my girlfriend, who would then be my step-aunt, according to my Asian family's culture and perhaps in state law. Virginia prohibits marriage of step-relatives. Edit. To be honest, I would see it fine if stepbrother, sister met each other before their parents did. But this case, son dates girl first. Later, father dates girl's sister. Shaking my head. My dad claims he met his fiancée without me, but he did meet her through me. The point is, I met her first and asked him as his son to respect my relationship. He didn't, and thus, this is a huge violation of my trust in him. I thought he would care and have decency. This sucks. My father disowned me for disagreeing with his decision. Also, my girlfriend because my family and I are against me dating a step. For those of you who don't know, in my culture, and as all of my extended Asian family members see it, if my dad marries my girlfriend's older sister, that makes her my stepmom, and my girlfriend my step-aunt. I may not see her that way, but that doesn't change how my family sees it, even though they hate it. What's more awful is that my dad would force his fiancée as the step-aunt to my cousins. He did this to me many times with his numerous fiancées, trying to get me to call these women my new stepmom. This is why my family, as well as I, are so against him for starting this complicated mess of a marriage. I don't know what to think of this. Any advice on how to tackle this situation pre- and post-marriage appreciated. Edit. My father calls me selfish for wanting him to stop the marriage and telling him it will ruin me and my girlfriend's relationship. Isn't he the selfish one in the first place to go after some young woman when I told him that this woman is my girlfriend's older sister and is off limits? He knew about me and my girlfriend already, but went for it as he always does. If this gives any context about my father's character, he is actually running for congressman this year. Some honest politician he is. Let's be clear here. Your dad is an absolute scumbag. He probably saw her as especially appealing because you disapproved. Your dad gets off on the forbidden in young women. He's the kind of creep we warn young women about on here all the time. You should absolutely cut contact with him because he completely crossed a boundary and he's an narcissistic predator. Don't go to his wedding either. The unfortunate thing is that there is nothing you can really do to stop him. You made your thoughts and feelings clear to him and he completely ignored them. He cares about himself and his wants more than he cares about you. You won't be able to appeal to his humanity because he doesn't have any. You might be able to approach the older sister and tell her how devastating this would be for you and warn her about your father's past. But if she's mainly interested in his money, she might not care either. But you can try if you think that she's a sympathetic and/or vulnerable character who would listen. That's about it though. If he goes through with it, all you can do is get him out of your life permanently and let him know exactly what you think of him. So today, I get this random phone call from a blocked number. I tend to not pick those up because I don't know who's calling. Anyways, I had a feeling that I should pick this one up. Surely enough, it was my stepmom. She called me to let me know that they have changed their phone numbers and they blocked the number so that I can't have the new one. She doesn't want me contacting them any longer. So a little backstory for a little more clarification. I had called them on Monday. My dad picked up the phone. We had a decent conversation and settled that I was going up to South LA to visit sometime during the weekend. My dad has some health issues that have severely deteriorated his mental ability, unfortunately. So he thought I was going to see him that day. About a few hours after that phone call, I get an angry one from my stepmom telling me that I should stop lying to my dad. I was absolutely confused. Shortly after my dad and I had gotten off the phone, he had showered and cleaned up the place. He waited patiently for me to go over for dinner, is what I was told by my stepmom. Back to today's phone conversation. I was basically told that I was no longer allowed to talk to him, her, or my stepsister, 29 female, to see how he's doing. On further digging on my stepmom, she had also told me that I was a disgrace to the family because of my life choices. After taking a beating emotionally from the woman, I finally got to talk to my dad, probably for the last time, and he agreed with her. They are super religious and told me that I was not welcomed anymore because I have chosen a different religion than them, have tattoos, studying something that isn't allowed, computer engineering, having a girlfriend, 21 female, who is also not of their religion and of different race, and listening to music that goes against their views. All I want is to make sure that he's okay. My dad and I have had a pretty craptastic relationship my entire life, but I still care about him. My stepmom has made it difficult for me to get close to him because our personalities clash real bad. Not sure what to do at this point and have the feeling that she was the mastermind behind this whole situation. She's always been manipulative, and my dad is kind of a doormat with her. If his wife is willfully isolating him from all of his family members, perhaps you should consider calling Adult Protective Services. I'm not sure what you can do legally, if anything at all, OP, but if you have any other method to get updates on your father's health, then do your best to maintain those contacts, whether it be through your stepsister, not sure on your relationship, or whatever other methods you have. You'll probably get much better advice from others here, but don't lose hope and fight to keep contact if you really do care enough for your father.